The practices between the Bears and the Colts have wrapped up, and today I'm giving my full recap of day 2 of practice and my overall thoughts from the Bears-Colts scrimmages. Let's get right into it. Tempers were flaring in Indy. Both teams were fired up, and there were multiple skirmishes and fights that had to be broken up. There weren't any punches thrown or anything like that, but both teams were involved in a lot of pushing, shoving, and a lot of chirping back and forth. The Bears did get rookie cornerback Terrell Smith back on the field, with Nate Davis and DeMarcus Walker both practicing in pads again. The bad news on the injury front was that Eddie Jackson did not practice. Elijah Hicks and A.J. Thomas ran with the first team at safety. On top of that, Cody Whitehair left practice and had to be replaced by Doug Kramer for most of the day. We'll get into that shortly. The total list of guys not practicing today was Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, Chase Claypool, Tyler Scott, Tremaine Edmonds, Velus Jones, Lucas Patrick, Treston Ebner, Josh Blackwell, and DeMarquise Gates. There was a huge list of guys not practicing, but the guys on the field had some really impressive performances. Today I'm breaking it down. Let's get started with the offense. Justin Fields was nearly perfect in team drills, not throwing a single incompletion and launching TD passes to DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Dante Pettis. His deep pass down the middle to DJ Moore might have been the play of the day. He was 8 for 8 and perfect in 11-on-11s. On top of that, he threw 12 TD passes in 7-on-7 drills. He was absolutely on fire. He also was spreading the ball around. He was hitting guys all over the field and spreading the ball to different receivers. He did enough that Matt Eberflus announced immediately after practice that Justin will not be playing Saturday against the Colts. He added that other key starters might also skip the game. I'd imagine DJ Moore is definitely not playing. Fields later threw a pass to the corner of the end zone that Cole Kmet went up and made an insane one-handed catch. Good job by Cole Kmet. Now let's talk about PJ Walker. He had another up and down day, throwing a couple of interceptions, but also making a few nice plays. The big news of the day seems to be the elevation of Tyson Bagent over Nathan Peterman. I spoke about it a couple times in the last week, but it seemed to happen last night. He took Peterman's place for the majority of the third team reps, and I barely saw Peterman out there at all. With Fields not playing tomorrow, I expect Bagent to get the majority of the playing time. Anyone sad that Fields won't be playing, just know you should get to see a ton of Bagent. He's an exciting young signal caller who's trying to earn a spot on this roster. Now let's dig into the trenches. The two most important guys on the offensive line to me have been Tevin Jenkins and Darnell Wright. Both guys were just dominating at these practices. I think Braxton Jones also looked really good. He did lose a couple of reps, but overall he looked great to me. My biggest worry was Cody Whitehair, who left practice and had to have his hand wrapped up. He seemed okay, but he definitely will not be playing tomorrow. With Doug Kramer getting most of the first team reps on the day, he will probably be starting tomorrow night. I'll be watching Kramer closely. The guy getting the reps with the second team unit at center was undrafted rookie Josh Lugg, not Dieter Iceland, who was at guard. I talked briefly about Lugg earlier in the offseason. He's a 23-year-old rookie from Notre Dame. He has a lot more size than Doug Kramer does. He's 6'6", 315 pounds. Safe to say I'll be watching the center position all game tomorrow and most likely have some film breakdowns coming afterwards. A couple of other quick notes on the offensive line. Larry Borum and Alex Leatherwood both had good practices last night as well. Now let's move on to the defense. The star of the day on defense was Elijah Hicks, but we'll get to him in just a minute. On the defensive line, Gervon Dexter was a menace. He exploded off the line multiple times and blew up the entire pocket. He had multiple pressures and was involved in a couple of run stops behind the line of scrimmage. He has been practicing a cross chop and a rip move throughout camp. He was fired up and had what I consider his best practice as a pro. I hope Big Dex gets a ton of action in tomorrow night's preseason game at Indy. On one rep in team drills, Gervon Dexter and Terrell Lewis both beat their men off the line and were all over Gardner Minshew for a sack. Dominique Robinson also had a really good practice to me. Andrew Billings was back after getting shaken up a bit yesterday. He has been dominant against the run all camp long, but he's also showing surprising pass rush skills. He had another great day last night. The first team defensive line just looked really good. Ngakoue looked great, and you always notice when DeMarcus Walker's on the field. He is loud and his presence is known. He brings some energy to the entire unit. In team drills, the Bears defense really set the tone. After some chirping back and forth, it was a lot more physical, but the Bears, in my opinion, dominated. The defense allowed Anthony Richardson to complete just one pass in 11-on-11s after Justin Fields completed every pass. This made it clear that after the first day's back and forth practice, the Bears dominated the Colts on day 2, setting the tone for a fun preseason game Saturday night. Elijah Hicks' hard work seems to be paying off. He has looked really good throughout camp, but he really stepped up on the final practice in Indy. With both Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker out, Elijah Hicks had a lot more responsibilities and had his best practice at camp. He had an interception, a forced fumble on Anthony Richardson, recovered a fumble, and flashed throughout the day, also breaking up a pass in the back of the end zone for Michael Pittman. Terrell Smith also returned last night and made some pretty nice plays. He shed a block and stopped a running play for a loss in the red zone and broke up a couple of passes as well. Good to see Smith back out there. There is a chance he plays tomorrow night. He spent the first day of practice running on the side of the field with Tremaine Edmunds. Speaking of Edmunds, I wanted to give an update on both Tremaine and Jaquan Brisker. First off, I did get to watch Tremaine Edmunds for some time the first night of practice. Like I said, he was running sprints and doing some work with the trainers on the side. Both Edmunds and Brisker are always on the field when the action is going on, even without being in pads. Both guys have play sheets and are involved in the defense and the play calls, usually standing just a few feet behind the action. The hope here is that both guys are on track and ready for week 1. I will say I'm a bit more worried about Brisker because I didn't see him doing any kind of sprints or running. He did spend some time on the exercise bike though, and he's been in really high spirits throughout camp, going around high-fiving and celebrating with all of his teammates. You love to see it. Speaking of that, Brisker was right there when Elijah Hicks broke up a potential Michael Pittman TD pass, and he was celebrating with Hicks in the back of the end zone. Brisker is one of my favorite players on this defense, so I want to see him get back very soon. I will say with him being out, Elijah Hicks, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kyler Gordon have all stepped their games up in that secondary. I haven't talked much about Jalen Johnson either, but he also looked really good in Indy. The defense was just very impressive and had Anthony Richardson running for his life both practices. I will say this about the total of practices in Indy. The Bears' offense and defense both got the better of the Colts, and our defense flustered Richardson constantly. Now, he did have some success running the ball, but throughout team drills, I charted he completed less than 25% of passing plays. Most plays ended with him tucking and running. It's 50-50 how many of those plays would have been sacks, but our defense was consistently in the backfield, and I couldn't be happier with how the joint practices went. Even without Justin Fields playing tomorrow night, there will be a ton of things to watch. I'll have a video on my top 10 things I'll be watching tomorrow night. Coming soon. Special shout outs to my guy Foster and JD, who were also down at practices. If you guys missed Ryan Pohl's interview with Hogan Johns, I'm going to include a brief clip of that at the end here, where Ryan Poles talks about how much he loves pancakes from Darnell Wright and Tevin Jenkins. I love it. I'll include the link in the description if you guys want to watch that full interview. I recommend it. It was a great one. Stay tuned, guys. I appreciate everyone who watches. Please hit that like button to help get this video out there to more like-minded Bears fans. And until next time, bear down.
That seem to take that extra step in terms of pancakes.
Yeah.
Tevin Jenkins, we know Darnell Wright has that side to him.
Yep.
I mean, that carries weight in that locker room, I guess, immensely.
Yeah, yeah, and for your opponent too, you want to be able to wear teams down in the fourth quarter, and that style does that. And really, Braxton's another one that's been able to do that, and again, he's one of those guys that can do both. I mean, you saw him out on that screen, getting out and running. So, yeah, it's a good group. Got to get them all together on a consistent basis. But once we get that, we'll be good. And
Pancakes.
yeah,
Devin Jenkins, we know Darnell Wright has that. Pancakes.
yeah.
Be fair, come over here. Be fair, come over.
What's up, Swift? It's Kyler Gordon. Just want to do a quick shout out to Swift Sports Network with all the latest news on the Bears. Keep doing your thing. Just hope you have a good day, man. And I just want to say, bear down.